Welcome to my cherry guide for UFO 50's Combatants. The cherry requirement is to beat all 12 missions. There will be different paths you can take to get to the final level, as well as optional levels to complete. There is also one mission that won't show up until later into the game, and it's a hard one, so I'd suggest beating all other missions then going back for this one. First, I'm going to go over the mechanics of the game and general tips, then I'm going to go over each mission and my strategy for each one. Please use timestamps if you're looking for a certain mission. The goal of the game is to wipe out all enemy units. You or your opponent can gain units by taking green food to your queens. Each ant can only carry one food at a time. The idea is that you'll build up an army and then attack the enemy queens. The enemy units are much stronger than your units, so you won't win in straight up battles. The enemy units are not only stronger, but the opponent often gets other advantages as well. Typically they'll start with more units, and also the missions themselves often spawn food closer to the enemy queens. When all enemy units are dead, you will succeed in the mission. Typically this involves building up your units, and then slowly taking out the enemy units by isolating them in smaller groups. Enemy units will only come at you if they have line of sight, so you can hide around corners to avoid them if you want. Any friendly units that are following you will need line of sight consistently as well, otherwise they will stop following you and will just wander aimlessly. When a unit dies it is permanent, but this isn't the case for yourself. You will revive at the nearest queen. You will only revive if there is a living queen to revive to, and there must also be a minimum of one other unit, be it a worker or a soldier. For this reason, be careful leaving your queens unprotected. While you can still win without a queen, you will instantly lose the game if your ant dies and it has no queen to respawn to. There are 3 types of unit both you and your opponent can have. When you select a mission, you'll see how many both you and your opponent begin the mission with. To start with, queens are where you'll take food to reinforce your units. You cannot move the queens. On some missions you can come across a queen husk, which if you touch will turn into a friendly blue queen. These can be useful and are sometimes placed in positions that make reinforcing faster. When a queen dies, it drops 9 food. You can use queens to reinforce workers for 1 food and soldiers for 2 food. There's a small delay when reinforcing units, so they'll not appear immediately if you bring a lot of food at once. Workers are cheaper but have no ability to attack at range. Since the red ants are so much stronger, you'll want to keep the workers out of combat if you can. Just get workers early if there's a lot of nearby food you can get. Soldiers are the same type of unit that the player unit is, and will attack at range if anything gets close enough. When firing, they'll shoot in the same direction until the opposing unit is defeated, including if the unit moves out of their attack. As long as the unit is in range, they'll keep firing straight. You will want to make your soldiers hold and then lure enemy units into them. Against enemy soldiers, you'll want to bait them to start shooting, and then reposition without leaving their range to hit them while they're not hitting you. Their attack range is slightly inconsistent, sometimes having a little bit of extra range. This seems random, so sometimes you can get hit at max range multiple times in a row. Just be mindful that this is a possibility and you may not be at a safe distance. Some missions also have spiders in them. They have no team affiliation and will attack any nearby ant, insta-killing it if it gets into contact. When killed they drop 9 food but are incredibly time consuming to kill. They move randomly unless a unit is nearby. When near a unit, they'll move towards them before stopping briefly and repeating the process. Often spiders are placed defending a lot of food. Spiders can also attack the queens, so do your best to keep them away from your queens and try to lure them into enemy queens where possible. Missions with spiders are actually much easier typically in my opinion. You can lure the spiders towards the enemies to interfere with them. When killed, the enemy will use the food left to reinforce, but usually they lose a lot more units when fighting the spider. Sometimes the spider wins, and since it's already weakened, you can come in at the end and finish the spider off. The negative to spending time luring a spider is that you're not spending this time guiding your other units, so they'll wander around reinforcing at a very slow rate. Spiders can only eat 1 ant at a time. After moving or eating an ant, they'll stand still for a while before they can move or eat again. You can use this time to focus fire them down. It's a very slow process, but you could if you wanted kill one by yourself by waiting for it to move and then going in to hit it. Still, I'd suggest not engaging spiders unless absolutely necessary. Ideally, only if they're already weakened by your opponent. Some missions will have blocks that you can destroy by shooting them. This can be done to access some areas. The enemy will not shoot these themselves unless they're aiming at something else, so any goodies behind them are only accessed when you decide to. As I mentioned before, you control a soldier. You know which ant you are by the circle beneath your feet. Since you're a soldier, you have the ability to shoot. You can shoot diagonally by holding both arrow keys in a desired direction. For controls, you move with the arrow keys, shoot with X, and command your units with Z. To command your units, you need to hold Z and then use the arrow keys to select a certain command, then release Z. By holding up, you can access commands towards the queens. The first tells any queens to use food to produce workers. This is what queens will produce by default. The second option tells queens to produce soldiers. My preference honestly is usually to set it to soldiers practically immediately, perhaps with the exception of getting a few workers early to help gather food. I just found it simpler to primarily focus on soldiers, especially since workers offer your side next to no combat value. The third upwards option allows you to surrender the mission. If things aren't going your way, select this option to start over. When you come across a husk and turn it into a blue queen, it will default to producing workers, so you'll need to reapply the soldier command. By holding right, you can tell any nearby units to follow you. You will use this a lot to lead units to food and also to get attacking units where they need to be. Any units following you will need line of sight at all times. You'll likely need to slow down at points to ensure that they're all still following you. Particularly around corners, make sure to wait for your following units. The second right option will only tell nearby soldiers to follow you, leaving any workers to enter their instinct mode. Any soldiers that are following you will shoot when you shoot, but since you're typically ahead of your soldiers, they'll often shoot at nothing. This is useful when gunning down queens though, just make sure to wait until they're all in range before starting to fire. By holding left, you can tell any nearby units to hold. This means that they'll stop on the spot. This is useful to keep units from wandering off and getting themselves killed. This is pretty useless for workers since they have no ranged capability. For soldiers, however, they'll hold position and shoot at any enemies that enter their range. You'll want to have soldiers hold a position and then lead enemy units into them. Since following soldiers will not shoot unless you do, you'll want to hold them before encountering enemy units. The second left command will only tell nearby soldiers to hold, useful if you want to take some workers for some food while leaving the soldiers to defend. By holding down, you can give nearby units the instinct command. By default, units will be in this mode and they love to run and get themselves killed. Generally, I don't use this command often, but it does have rare uses. For example, if you get units to follow you to food, once they're close enough you can give them the instinct command, and then they'll grab the food and usually run back towards the nearest queen. This is slightly faster than having them all follow, and having some wait while you get them all holding food. The second down option only gives this command to soldiers, which I never really found a use for. This game is all about luring enemy units into bad situations, whether this be luring spiders into enemy territory or bringing small groups of enemies into a bunch of holding soldiers. I didn't mention it earlier, but the queen can be a great shield against small groups of enemies. Simply position the queen between you and the enemies, and the queen will take the hits while you free fire behind it. Obviously be careful as you won't want to do this too much, but since the queen has a lot of health, it's definitely a valid option if you find yourself in a situation where you've lured a couple enemies back towards the queen. Now I'm going to teach you how to one-on-one both types of unit. To start with workers. Workers will run directly at you once they spot you. If you come into contact, you'll enter a fight with them. If they're unharmed, they will kill you, but if they're low enough on health, they'll either trade kill you or you'll leave the fight injured. What you need to do is run away from them, weaving shots wherever possible. The issue is that shooting stops you for a bit, so you'll need to make sure there's enough space between you. Remember, you can break line of sight if you get too many ants' attention, or are just scared in general. Hopefully you'll have enough space to retreat to. When they turn a darker shade of red, they are 2 shots from death, so you can potentially play a game of chicken with them at this point if you can get the 2 hits in before they reach you. These are much harder to 1v1 than the soldiers, but they're easier to take out when you have backup since you can lure them into holding soldiers. The soldiers have the same spit attack as you do. Thankfully, once they start shooting, they'll not readjust unless you leave their range. Simply readjust and hit them at an angle. Be careful not to leave their range, as if they stop shooting they'll adjust their angle when you re-enter their range. The soldiers are a lot easier to 1v1, the issue only comes when there's multiple or if there's workers nearby that also will see you. Now let's go over each mission itself. There are 12 missions total. Some missions are not required to proceed but are required for the cherry. One mission in particular, Commando 2, doesn't become available until you've defeated the mission The Path. When available, that mission will appear near the start of the map here. First Blood. This is the first mission of the game. This is your introduction to the game. There's only 1 queen per side and the enemy starts with 2 workers. The only food is in between these queens. I find it simplest to take out the workers before they can reinforce, but this will require you to kite them, weaving in hits when there is a sufficient gap. It may be easier to beat this mission a more conventional way, by taking food to your queen and gaining more units, but it's a good practice to know how to kite for future missions. That said, you should have no trouble beating this mission normally. Immediately after the first mission, the path splits and we can choose various missions. You can do missions in a different order to me. Feel free to use timestamps to find whatever mission you want. Skirmish. In this mission there are no queens and no food. Since there are no queens, make sure not to die yourself, as that will be an instant game over. Thankfully this mission is very short though. Here you want to get your units to follow and group them together. Then make them hold. Ideally there will be some workers in front of the soldiers to function as a sort of shield. It's most important to keep your soldiers alive. Once they're holding, you want to lure enemy units in 1 or 2 at a time, and take them out. Lure them into your holding units and they should get shot by your soldiers. Continue this until all enemy units are defeated. Now for surprise. This is the first mission where the difficulty really spikes. You immediately want to get your ants to follow you, and once near the food, tell them to instinct. Also tell your queen to produce soldiers. Hopefully only one enemy worker has made its way to you. Try and kill this worker, then take some food back to your queen. I even get into a fight here, but as long as the enemy dies, it's fine. Then go back to your queen. There should be a soldier waiting for you. Issue the soldier follow command to get only the soldier following you. You want to leave the workers to potentially continue reinforcing. Then bring the soldier and hold them near the food. Use the soldier hold command so that the workers continue to ferry food, if they feel like it. We get the soldier to hold here so it can aid us in killing more red ants. From here, try luring the enemy units one at a time, cutting them near your other soldiers so they can also chuck out some damage. I end up dying since more red ants get involved than I would have liked, and my friendly soldier also dies. Thankfully more replacement soldiers have been produced for me to continue with. There's a chance the enemy will keep reinforcing using the other food, but generally I felt like I could kill these enemies just as fast as they were reinforcing. Eventually more soldiers should be made and should eventually find their way to you. Once they're in range of you, you can use the soldier hold command when they're nearby in order to get them to stay and help with future enemies. Once all ants are destroyed, tell the friendly ants to follow you to the enemy queen and take it out. Next we have Commando. In this mission we have no queen, so once again be cautious, as if you die the mission will immediately fail. We start with 4 extra soldiers. Get them to follow you and hold them before coming up to enemy units. When coming up to a worker I would lure them into my soldiers, and when coming up to a soldier I would leave my soldiers behind since they're more likely to be shot. This mission is great practice for luring enemy units. You can free a spider if you want, but it's not necessary. There are also a couple sections that you can open with breakable blocks which contain friendly units. The first one of these contains 2 workers. Definitely not necessary, but you may as well free these. Then there are 2 more soldiers, but this is right at the end of the level, and you probably won't be able to access them until all enemy units are dead anyway. Simply clear a path to the enemy queen and kill everything to get this mission done. Definitely not a hard one as long as you're comfortable cutting enemies and avoiding their shots. Now we're going to backtrack a bit for some of the other missions. Let's start with Ambush. To start with, a massive battle will unfold in front of your queen. All of your units will die, but if you back up a bit you can shoot the units a bit as they approach. Position yourself behind your queen, she'll act as a shield to enemy attacks. Simply shoot them while they hit your queen. Then I like to go and kill the 2 workers on screen. There are 2 enemy queens on this level, but I like to clear the nearby workers and slow their reinforcing. Make sure to command your queen to produce soldiers for future. You can always use your queen as a shield again to help with these workers. Usually they don't both come at once, but in this case they did. Use the nearby food to get a bunch of soldiers, then take these soldiers and take out the queen if you haven't already. I went to take out the queen first, but honestly you can save some time by doing this after building your forces. From here, get your units to hold as you lure enemies from below into them. Once all enemy ants are dead, go in and finish the final queen off. There is potential to get a second queen of our own on this level at the bottom left, and there's a bunch of food nearby. Feel free to use this to get more soldiers if you want, but I didn't find it necessary. Now for Pincered. We could have come across this mission a lot sooner if we wanted to, but we've backtracked for it now instead. To start, go to the right and grab some food to bring to the queen. You can lure an enemy holding some food to your queen to kill them nearby as well. I end up doing this when next going for food. By killing the enemy close to my queen, they'll leave some food nearby for me. Make sure you've commanded your queen to produce soldiers. Once you have a soldier, go to the left and take out all the ants in that area by luring them into your other soldier. Once all ants are dead, farm up some more soldiers. There's a cache of food you can break into if you'd like, but I didn't find it necessary. You can farm as many soldiers as you'd like. Once you have enough, we're going to take out the queen and go to the right to defeat the rest of the enemies. Now we simply hold our soldiers and lure the remaining enemies into them. Remember, workers are easy to lure into the soldiers, but enemy soldiers can be a nuisance and can hit some of your soldiers. You should have enough where this isn't a concern, but you can always take out enemy soldiers yourself without luring them into your own. Once all the enemies are dead, we can destroy the final queen and complete the mission. Now for Spidernest, our introduction to the spiders. To start with, I leave my workers on instinct and simply command the queen to produce soldiers. This way the workers should at minimum recruit one soldier by the time I return to the queen. Then go into the spider nest and lure the spider towards the enemy queen. Once close enough, leave the spider to it. It will ruin most of the enemy forces, or at the very least slow them down. I then spend the rest of my time reinforcing soldiers, which I can use to go in for the kill at the end. I'll leave the rest of this mission in, but I actually don't have to fight another red ant. The spider wins the mission for me. In the case the spider does die, simply go in after the fact with all the soldiers you've been getting, and take out any remaining units after the fact. If you're lucky like me, the spider will simply do all the work and this won't even be necessary. Open field. This mission includes 2 enemy queens and a spider. I love to use the spider to do the work for me, although it is much harder to do on this mission than others. To start with, command your queen to produce soldiers, and then go and lure the spider towards the enemies. There is a red queen at the top of the map, but no enemy ants start there. You only have to worry about the ones at the bottom. Lead the spider to the enemies and try to aid the spider in its battle. This isn't the easiest thing to pull off, but keep bringing enemies to the spider, and if you get an opening, start to shoot them until all enemies are dead. The last few enemies here actually chase me back to my queen. I use her as a shield to take them out. Once all the enemies are dead, lure the spider away from your queen and towards the top of the map, where the second enemy queen is. Then leave the spider to it and take out the final queen. Your work from the start should have been left on instinct and should end up recruiting some soldiers for you, although in this attempt I show, no soldiers end up getting recruited. It's nice to have, but primarily it's just a fail-safe for if something goes wrong. For example, if the spider dies. Now that I've killed the bottom queen, we can hear the spider killing the top one. Just spectate the battle and you'll beat the mission. Next, we have the push. This mission, the enemy has 2 queens, and it really isn't too much trouble. To start with, command your queen to produce soldiers. Then get the soldier to follow you and go to the right. You and your soldiers should be able to take out all the ants near this queen on the right. Once all the ants are dead, go back to the left of your queen and take out those ants nearby. These red ants often just wander aimlessly with their food, which is why we go to the right first. Take out these few ants here and then proceed to reinforce soldiers until you build up your forces. If you want, there is a husk at the bottom right you can open up and can ferry nearby food into. There is a lot of food in this corner. I don't bother with that and just use the nearby food to build up some soldiers before going to the left, holding my units and then luring the enemy into them. You can take out the queen on the right first. I forget to do this, so have to go back for it at the end. The Commando 2 mission should be available to you if you want to go for that now, although I personally would leave it to the end. If you backtrack, you can access this mission, although I'll showcase it after beating the main game's final mission. This isn't like Rock on Island where you only get the cherry after the final mission, you can get the cherry after beating Commando 2. If you're interested, this is where the Commando 2 mission is. For now, let's go to the next mission, Deathsdoor. Deathsdoor is our penultimate mission, not including Commando 2. To start with, I leave the second soldier on instinct and go to lure a nearby spider towards the enemy queen. There's a chance this soldier will die, but even if that happens it shouldn't be too bad. Lure the spider up to the nearby enemy queen. Once it starts fighting, use this time to get a few more soldiers. Be careful not to accidentally lure the spider into your own queen. Once you have some soldiers, go in to mop up the remains of the battle between the spider and the red ants. In my case, the spider dies, leaving a few red ants to finish off. Potentially the spider could win this fight. While you could lure it to the next queen, I found it easier to simply finish off in these scenarios. Then I take my soldiers and go to finish off the second queen. You can farm up more soldiers if you'd like. Where we found the spider to begin with has a lot of food if you want to go that route. I know if I move in now, the other queen won't have had enough time to reinforce too much anyway. Now we do our usual tactic, get our soldiers to hold and then lure enemies into them. Once we've taken out all the ants, we can kill the queen and complete this mission. Now for the final main mission. This is it. To start with, I tell my units to follow me and lead them to the food nearby on the left. Then I put them on instinct to take the food to the queen. I also command the queen to produce soldiers. Now I head around to a nearby spider. I lure this spider into some enemies to the northeast. I die in the process, which is fine. If anything, I get back to my queen faster by dying. Now that the spider is causing havoc, I join my forces and build up some more soldiers. To the left of our queen is another spider. You should be able to ignore this one, but if you're worried you can take it out. Just keep an ear out for if the spider is attacking your queen, and if it does, be particularly careful not to die yourself since you won't be able to respawn. So for me, I'm going to continue getting soldiers. There is a big clump of food to the right we can grab. I go there once and bring some more food to the queen. Now I wait by the queen until the soldiers spawn in. Once I have all my soldiers, I move to the top right where I left the spider to clean up whatever remains. In this case, I see the spider as it goes down. Thankfully it did its job, so I can come in and clear up the mess, and also take out the enemy queen. Now that this queen is sorted, I can move upwards to the rest. I get greedy here and end up dying to this worker. Not the end of the world, just means I have to spend some time getting back to where I was. If you have more patience and play it properly, you'll be fine. Since I didn't tell my soldiers to hold, they wandered all over the place. I command them to follow me again and continue to progress, taking out any red ants in my way. On the bottom left here you can see a husk. I like to leave this one on the off chance the spider finds my other queen. This way I can come here if needed to give myself a second respawn point. By not grabbing the husk now, the enemies won't potentially destroy it. There is lots of food nearby you can use to reinforce though if you'd like to. Continuing upwards, there should be a lot of enemies here. Just lure them into your soldiers and you should be fine. I take yet another death here. Again, nothing more than a waste of my time as I have to walk back. Up here is the Queen of Queens. Nothing special to them, they act just as a normal queen. I take it out since I'm already here, although we will be passing back through here soon. Now we go left to clear up the rest of the red ants before taking out the nearby queen. From here we go all the way to the right to defeat the final queen and complete the mission. Finally we have Commando 2. This mission unlocks after completing the push, but I like to come here at the end. This is the hardest mission in my opinion. Be prepared to reset a lot here until you get lucky and the enemies approach you one at a time. You have to clear a path to the first enemy queen. There is a spider in the second half of the map that should destroy their second queen. Then if you kill this queen, they'll have no way to reinforce and add to their numbers. You can try to keep your extra ant alive, but it's likely they'll die. As long as you're fast enough to kill the queen, the remaining enemy ants will just wander aimlessly, having no way to reinforce. From here we need to get to the far right of the map to activate our own queen that's lying dormant. It is possible to clear the remaining ants one at a time, but realistically you should play it safe by getting the queen. That said, it is a long trek. In this attempt I had to kill all but 3 of them before I could even get to the queen. It's difficult, but make sure to kite the workers properly when luring them, and for the soldiers make sure they're already firing before repositioning to get an angle. Once you have the queen, reinforce with the nearby food and then finish off the remaining red ants. Make sure you're producing soldiers from the queen. And with that, we've completed all of Combatants' missions, getting our cherry. I hope this guide was helpful to you. If you have any additional tips, please leave a comment, and thank you all for watching.